This video is about acid-base buffer system, as the previous video was about the acid-base balance, in which the acid and bases were defined on the basis of hydrogen ion. Acids are those molecular substances that has the ability to release or donate hydrogen ion, while bases are those substances that has the ability to accept hydrogen ion. So the acid and base levels are regulated in the body through a specific range, through specific values. So these are managed in their specific range and the body is neutralized as the acids, most of the acids are produced in the body through food. As the human body, we take up the foods and the foods after passing through the digestion and then metabolism process, it produces acids in the form of, they have different sources. So these acids, the level of acids in the body is neutralized by the presence of the bases. So we define the acid and bases on the basis of hydrogen ion concentration. So hydrogen ion refers to the pH. It donates the pH of the body. So pH is the negative logarithm of the hydrogen ion concentration. So the arterial blood physiological pH ranges between 7.35 to 7.45. So there are specific regulatory mechanisms that the body has, the specific regulatory mechanisms that manage or keeps or try to keep the pH within the normal specific range, because the body's all of the physiological functions and all other processes occurs within this normal pH. So if there is any slight variation or disturbances in this balance, it will lead to acidosis and alkalosis, and it will also disturb the normal functioning of the body and will lead to different pathologies, and eventually in severe cases it can even lead to the death of the persons. So these acid base balance, like if there is any slight variations in the pH, in the normal pH of the body, if the pH is below it, there will be excess of the acids and will lead to the acidosis, and if the pH is above, it will lead to the alkalosis, there will be the excess of the base. So this imbalance, like body must be in the acid base balance. As I told you that the most of the acids are produced in the body through natural mechanisms, through some natural mechanisms, and also through the food, like take up food through digestion and then metabolism, there is the production of acids. Then to minimize and to neutralize the acidic effect, there is the base. So bases are added to the acids to neutralize the reaction and to try to manage the pH within the normal specific range. So this imbalance, acid base imbalance, um, to make them normal, then there is the mechanism known as the compensatory mechanism. So this compensation mechanism is known as buffer system. So buffers are basically used that will manage that if there is excess of acid, it will add the bases and will try to neutralize the reaction. And if there is excess of bases, these will add the acids and will neutralize the reaction and will try to resist the changes in the pH. So the changes in pH are minimized or are resisted by the buffer system. So there are specific buffer systems present in the body or specific buffers present in the body that helps in managing the acid base imbalances, and that keeps the acid base level in the balanced state. So before going to the buffer system, the buffers are combination of the weak acid together with its conjugate base. As in this example, this is the weak acid, for example, and this weak acid dissociates into strong acid and the conjugate base. So as if we take the example that is present in the physiological present in the body. So this is the bicarbonate buffer system example. So in the bicarbonate buffer system, as you can see, if there is the increased concentration of hydrogen ion, or if there is the acidosis, like increased hydrogen ion concentration, like increased presence of acids, then it will lead to the decrease in pH. If the pH is decreased, it leads to the acidosis. Then in that case, what will happen, that this reaction will be neutralized by the presence of the base. So this conjugate base will combine with this strong acid and will convert the strong acid into the weak acid. So this is how the reaction is neutralized. So it buffers. So buffers that are the regulators that regulate the pH of the human body, or that resist the changes in the pH. So how they resist the pH? That is the combination of the weak acid and the conjugate base. And in this example, this is the carbonic acid H2CO3, bicarbonate HCO3 minus, and hydrogen ion. So there is excess of hydrogen ion. It means that there is decrease in pH acidosis. Then it will be neutralized by the presence of the base. Then it will be convert again. It will react with the hydrogen ion and will form the weak acid, carbonic acid H2CO3. So this H2CO3 is then converted into water and carbon dioxide, and then carbon dioxide is eliminated through respiration through lungs. So if there is decreased hydrogen ion concentration, so decreased hydrogen ion concentration means the pH will be high. So that will lead to the alkalosis. Then in that condition, this carbonic acid will again dissociate into bicarbonate and hydrogen ion. So it will provide the hydrogen ion, and then again it will normalize or neutralize the pH. So that's how the buffering occurs. That's how the buffers act, that they are the combinations that they will add. The in case of acid, low pH, it will be neutralized by the presence of the base, and in case of the high pH, it will be neutralized by the presence of the acids. So now let's see the different types of buffer systems that are present, that are used to manage the pH in the normal range, because if it deviates from that normal range, it leads to serious consequences. So it can be used as a defense mechanism. So buffer system is basically the defense mechanism that will manage the pH within normal range. So there are two types of defenses. There is the first line of defense and second line of defense. First of all, the body will try to manage through first line of defense, and if it escape and does first line of defense does not work, then the second line of defense will come to will perform their functions to rescue the body by buffering. So the first line of defense is the chemical buffer system, and second line of defense is the physiological buffer system. As the chemical buffer system, it acts within seconds. So, and the physiological buffer system, it is relatively slower than this chemical buffer system, that it takes minutes to days, and from days to weeks. Then let's see chemical buffer system. They are further categorized into different chemical buffer systems. These buffer systems are bicarbonate buffer system, phosphate buffer system, and protein buffer system. So this chemical buffer system is the first line of defense for buffering, and it acts within, it's the quickest, and it works within seconds. And then the second line of defense is the physiological buffer system. The physiological buffer system is further out of two types. First, in second line of defense, in physiological buffer system, first of all, the buffering or the buffer system that will act to rescue the body will be the respiratory mechanism. So first the respiratory mechanism will come, and if it escapes, if the acid base balance does not work by the respiratory mechanism, the respiratory mechanism, it takes minutes to hours for the compensation. And if it does not work, or if it does not manage the acid base balance, then it will be managed by, or it will be compensated by the renal mechanism. So the last defense mechanism would be the renal mechanism, that it will be managed through the kidneys. So renal mechanism is the slowest, like it will take minutes, hours to days, and but the most reliable and the most accurate buffering system is the through kidneys, is through renal mechanism. So now let's see a brief or overview about each of the buffer system. Like these are the buffer systems. So how these buffer systems will manage the pH within normal range, or will compensate, or will try to resist the changes in the pH. So how the pH resistance is caused by these buffer system. Just an overview. So first of all, the chemical buffer system. Bicarbonate buffer system, how it resists the changes in pH is the bicarbonate buffer system. The carbonic acid and the bicarbonate ions are involved. So bicarbonate buffer system, This is the carbonic acid, bicarbonate. In case of there is excess of hydrogen ion, so it means that it has the low pH, acidosis. Then the base will neutralize the reaction and will convert them into carbonic acid. So that was in case of the acidosis. Now in alkalosis in bicarbonate system, how it will be managed, that alkalosis means there is decrease in hydrogen ion concentration. So what will happen, this carbonic acid will be again converted into bicarbonate and hydrogen ion. So it will gives the reaction will be reversed and it will gives the hydrogen ion. So this is how it will resist the changes in the pH, will try to manage the acids and base levels within the normal limit. The other buffer system is the phosphate buffer system. So in the phosphate buffer system, the phosphoric acid will be involved. So H3PO4, in case of the excess of the hydrogen ion, or it means that if there is decrease in pH, we are talking about the pH resistance, that how buffer manage the pH within normal range. So if the pH is decreased, so how it will be managed through buffer system, that through by the addition of the base. As decrease in pH means that there is increase in acids. So decrease in pH, it means that acidosis, and there is high concentration of hydrogen ion, then it will be neutralized by the addition of the bases and it will be converted into the weak acids. Then in case of the high pH, if there is the high pH, then it means that it's alkalosis and there is decreased concentration of hydrogen ion. Then what will happen? This reaction will be reversed. This H3PO4, it will gives the hydrogen ion. Then by the presence of the hydrogen ion or the acids, the strong acids, then that the increase in pH will be neutralized. So this is how the phosphate buffer system resists the changes in pH. Now the next is the protein buffer system. So protein buffer system, as the proteins are made up of amino acids. So the structure of amino acids has both the acidic part and the basic part. As this is the structure of the amino acid. This amino acid has the acidic terminal and has the basic terminal. The carboxyl group in amino acid structure acts as an acids, and the amino group in the amino acid structure acts as a base. So it's very easy. If there is decrease in pH, so decrease in pH means that it has the increased concentration of hydrogen ion. So what will happen? Then it will accept the hydrogen ion. So this is the condition for the structure of the amino acid, that this amino group of the amino acid has the tendency to accept the hydrogen ion. So it will accept the hydrogen ion and it will become NH3. And if there is this was in case of if there is the increase of hydrogen ion, then that's hydrogen ion, like if there is decrease in pH and if there is increase in hydrogen concentration, then how it will neutralize, that this amino acid will take up the hydrogen ion that will be taken up by this amino group. As you can see that there is, it will become NH3, so it will take up the hydrogen ion. So that's how the protein is involved in the buffering system. And if the pH is increased, it means that there is decrease in hydrogen ion concentration. So it means that this amino acid or this protein has to buffer the reaction by providing the hydrogen ion. So this carboxyl group, like COOH, this carboxyl end of the amino acid act as an acid. So it will donate, as you can see here, it has donated his hydrogen ion. So it will provide, this amino acid will provide its hydrogen ion. So this is how the alkalosis or alkaline environment of the will be neutralized with the help of the amino acids. So that's how the protein is used to resist the changes in pH. As in case of the decreased pH, it will accept the hydrogen ion. So how it will accept the hydrogen ion? Because its amino group here, it acts as a base. And in case of the increased pH, this carboxyl group acts as an acids. So by the addition of acids or by the release of hydrogen ion, so it will neutralize the alkaline environment of the Then the next are the, so these were the chemical buffers, as we have seen: bicarbonate buffer system, phosphate buffer system, and protein buffer system. That how they neutralize, they work in to neutralize the pH, or works in to resist the changes in the pH. Now let's see for the physiological buffer system. As the physiological buffer system, it relatively, as compared to the chemical buffer system, takes much time, as the chemical buffer system is the quickest. So now physiological buffer system, as it's composed of two, through the compensation will of, or the changes in pH will be resisted by two ways, or will be managed by two ways: through lungs and through kidneys. So first of all, let's see for the respiratory mechanism. So the respiratory mechanism, in which the carbon dioxide excretion occurs. So this respiratory mechanism is basically directly related to the bicarbonate buffer system, as we have seen in the chemical buffer system. As in the chemical buffer system, one of the buffer system is the bicarbonate buffer system. So that bicarbonate buffer system is directly related to this respiratory mechanism, because as the carbon here, as carbon dioxide is not an acid, but here we consider it as an acid. How? Because it is related to the hydrogen ion. How it is related to the hydrogen ion? In case of the low pH, as low pH means there is increased concentration of hydrogen ion. In case of low pH, how it will be managed, or how it will be neutralized? That through respiratory mechanism. So it means that it relates to lungs. So lungs is involved in the respiration. So this, if this hydrogen ion is increased, then what will happen, as we have studied in bicarbonate buffer system, that it is neutralized by the action of the conjugate base, and it will be converted into weak acid. Then this weak acid, H2CO3, in the lungs, they are converted into water and carbon dioxide. Then this carbon dioxide is then eliminated through respiration. So in case of low pH, or in case of high hydrogen ion concentration, the rate of respiration will be increased. So respiration, increased respiration means there will be increased elimination of carbon dioxide. So in case of low pH or high concentration of hydrogen ion, so what will happen? That this reaction will work, and it will be converted into carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide will be exhaled out through lungs. So this is how the pH will be for the acidic environment, or for the low pH. The pH will be neutralized through the elimination of the carbon dioxide. So in case of acidic environment, or in case of the low pH, there will be the increased production of the carbon dioxide. Now let's see for the high pH or increased pH, or you can say alkalosis, in which there will be the decreased concentration of hydrogen ion. So we need the hydrogen, or we need the strong acids in case of the alkaline environment, or in case of the high pH, to neutralize the reaction, or to neutralize the pH, or to resist the changes in the pH. So what will happen? This reaction will be reversed. Then what will happen? This whole process will be reversed. That it means that carbon dioxide will combine with the water and will form the formation of the carbonic acid, and then carbonic acid will again dissociate into, it will give the presence of the hydrogen ion, or it will give the presence of the strong acids, and that will neutralize the pH for the alkaline environment. So this is how, so carbon dioxide, when it is retained in the body, it means that the respiration will be decreased. So it means that the respiration will be decreased, or the breathing will be decreased in case of the alkaline environment. If there is high pH, or there is decrease in hydrogen ion concentration, then the rate of respiration, or the breathing, will be decreased. So when the breathing is decreased, there will be retention of carbon dioxide. It will be react with water and will form the carbonic acid, and then it will give the presence of the hydrogen ion. So it will neutralize the basic environment, or it will neutralize the high concentration of the pH towards the normal. Now let's come to the other compensatory mechanism that involves the kidneys. So kidneys, it takes more time as compared to the other buffering system, like it takes from days, like from hours to days, and but this is the more reliable and the more accurate buffer system. So what happens in renal mechanism? There is the excretion of hydrogen ion. As in respiratory mechanism, there were the carbon dioxide excretion, but renal mechanism, it is related to the hydrogen ion excretion. Depends on the pH or depends on the acidic or basic environment. So okay, now let's start with the pH, increase pH and decrease pH. So if there is decreased pH, it means that there is increased of hydrogen ion concentration and the environment is acidic. So in case of acidic environment or in case of acidosis, there is increased hydrogen ion concentration, then what will happen? The reaction will be neutralized with the presence of the bases. So NH3 will combine with the hydrogen ion, it will form the ammonium ion. So this ammonium, NH4, they are excreted out by the renal tubules into the urine. So this is how this pH is maintained or neutralized. So this hydrogen ion will be excreted in the by the presence of by the formation of the ammonium ion. Then they can be easily excreted out. Then if now let's come to the other converse, like if there is increased pH or there is an alkaline environment, so it means that there is decreased hydrogen ion concentration. Then in that case, like if there is in the blood, if there is hydrogen ion is required in the blood, then it will signals the kidneys that to not to excrete out the hydrogen ion from the body. And in that case, body will try to retain that hydrogen ion in the body. Then that hydrogen ion will be retained inside the body by like to not to convert into ammonium ion. Then ammonium ion will be again dissociated into hydrogen ion and ammonia, so that this hydrogen ion will not be able to excrete, because it will through kidneys, through renal system, it is excreted out in the form of the ammonium ion. So these were the buffer systems or the defense mechanism for the changes in the pH. So as the slight variation in the pH can lead to lethal effects. So there are two buffer systems, chemical buffer system and physiological buffer system. So we have seen all the chemical buffer systems, how they manage the changes in the pH, and physiological buffer, that how they try to manage or compensate for the little bit changes in the pH. So this was the overview for the buffer system.